Hi everyone, welcome back to DiademAnalytics, and I'm glad to start the part two of our series turning unstructured data into insightful, interactive, and dynamic dashboard in Excel. If you missed the part one of this series, where I covered how to create dynamic five paths for our dashboard, and that will enable us connect seamlessly with the data folder. I recommend that you just check it out. I'll leave the link in the description of this video so you can access it very easily. Today, I'll be walking us through the query process of cleaning up this data set. Okay, let's take a look at that data set. Okay, let's look at the structure of the data set we are cleaning up. Okay, so we have the date. Okay, and we have the order number, and over here we have the shipping mode. All right, and this is the first class is covering for these three. That is covering first class for consumer segment, first class for corporate segment, and then first class for home office. Then we have same day for consumer. So this we have to fill this down to cover for the corporate and home office, and second class also going to fill this down to cover for corporate and home office. Same thing applies here. Okay, and whatever we have in here. Okay, now we have taken a look at our data set. Let's find out. Let's just walk through the process of cleaning it up and making it dynamic as much as possible, so we don't have to come in to the query over time to adjust certain things and uh, update certain things, to make it uh, dynamic so it can be kind of scalable. Okay, if the data set increases, if the data naming pattern changes, it can still flow in the query process. Okay, just sit tight, enjoy the flow. I will try as much as possible to get us the details and the reasons for each action taken in this whole process. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so we have all these columns, okay, from our import, and they tell us more, so many things. This will tell you about the extension. Here we have Excel workbook. If it is CSV, it will indicate it here as CSV. If it is PDF, it will also be indicated here. But in this case, we're dealing with Excel workbook um, files. Okay, here we have the access date and then modify date and other information. But I am just interested in two columns. It would have been one, but sometimes you just have to keep track of where your data is coming from. In case there is any issue, you can easily refer back to the original data folder to find out what is going on there. Look at the raw data itself. So because of that, I will be returning the name column. So in that case, I am going to select the content and then the name column, and I will remove others. Okay. The next step is I will extract the data we have in here. The data we have in here, I'll have to extract it, and to do that, we're going to create another column, and I'll just call this column tables. And because our data is stored in Excel workbook, we're going to use the Excel dot workbook. Okay, we use the Excel dot workbook function, Excel dot workbook, and we'll pass this to it. Close. If our data is stored in CSV format, so we'll just have csv.document. Okay, and so if our file is stored in CSV, we just have csv.document and we'll just pass the content in it. Okay, but in this case, we just have excel.workbook. Okay, we hit OK. So we have this. Let me expand this here. This will always be the same because just give you information about the Excel information so we can actually extract the main data we are looking for. In this case, I've just retained the data and then the item. Okay, so this is what we have in the data column. We have the data we're actually looking at for, okay, and the name of the sheet where it is actually stored, the sheet name in that Excel workbook. Okay. Next, if you look into these tables, you can see here we have the data set we are looking for, and it has 14 columns. And here we have this one, just one column. Here we have 14, which is the correct one. And here we also have 14. And then here we just have 5. Okay. I'm not sure how static this will be, because if you observe, we just have the sheet name to be data for the correct data we are looking for, but I am not certain if this will remain constant over the period. In order to avoid issue of having issue when the sheet name is renamed, I will try to create something that will look into each of this table, count the number of columns we have. Like here we have 14, and here just 1. Here we have 14. So if we have anything 14 and above, I would like to retain that very row in this case, and anything less than 14 columns, we'll take it out. So in order to create that, I will create a new column. This time around, I'm going to call it count columns. Okay, and it will be table dot columns, table dot column count, and we are going to pass this one data, close it, hit enter. All right, so here we have this one as 14, and here 1, 14, 14, and 5. So we are interested in the 14, and maybe if there is increase in the structure, maybe there's increase in the sheet mode or the segment, and the data adjusted somehow increased, then we'll be fine with that. So what I'm going to do is to just say I want to filter where keep row where is greater than equal to 14. Okay, so we just have these ones. So let's just take a step backward. I want to rename this, and I just want to call it count columns. Then here I'll just call this one filter by column. Yeah. Next, I'm going to remove a lot of things. I'm going to remove others, retaining just these two. Just we're retaining just these two. So we're going to click remove others. Then I will expand this. Okay. So we have our data all combined, and we have this. But unfortunately, this is hard coded, and I wouldn't like to have that for so many reasons. If there is increase in the number of columns, if the data set increase to have the about 15 columns or more, it won't capture the 15, 16 or whatever. Okay, so in order to avoid that, I will take this out and make the column process, the column expansion dynamic. Okay, in order to achieve that, we are going to get table.column name. So in this table.column names, we're just going to extract the column, the names, column names, and we are going to extract it from a table. And this table, I want to combine all the data we have. Remember, in the step above, we had 3 tables in there. So let's take a step backward to this point. So we have 3 tables in here. So I want to combine all these tables and then extract the column names. Okay, so in order to do that, we have the column names and we want to combine the tables so we can extract those names. So we have table dot combine. Okay, and this will take the previous step argument, which is this one. So we take this, fix it in here, and then the column we are looking at is the column we call data. Okay, and we hit enter. So it's looking at this very column, combining the data and extracting the column names. So we combine the tables under the data column, and we extract the names of the columns. So with that, we have these column names dynamic. We don't have any formula here. We don't have hard-coded column names here. So all these column now, they're all dynamic. So if the number of columns increase, it will also increase. And at this point, I would like to mention that I was unable, I didn't consider promoting the table headers, okay, which we can do here. If your data is well arranged, you don't have any need to readjust the column names. Let's assume that we just have this particular, the row 2 in this data as the column name, and it's just well arranged in that order. We don't need any adjustment. Like in this case, we need to fill up these null values and order. If we don't have that, we can actually promote our headers from this point. So in order to promote headers from this point, you just have to type table.promote headers, table.promote headers. Okay, table.promote headers, and we'll just pass this through, hit enter. Let's check the difference. So you have here all this, then we check this other one. See, the first row has been promoted to be the header. Okay, but we don't need this because we need to fill up these spaces, the null values we have there. Here we need to fill up this because this is first class consumer. This will be first class corporate, and then first class home, same day consumer, same day corporate, same day home office, and all that. So we just need to fill this up. Okay, so because of that, I don't need to promote these headers. So I'll take that out, and we have our expand, headers dynamic in it. We have it in a dynamic format that doesn't require any. There's no hard coded stuff there. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it the raw data. The raw data. So this is our raw data. And the next step, I will just I'll just keep just the first two rows, these first two rows, so that I will take care of these spaces we have in here. Adjust the column, just adjust the column head. Okay, so with that we have this, so keep the first two rows, and next we're going to transform it to see it better, and we'll be able to do some adjustments. So this is what it's like. Okay, the row 1 is now column 1, the row 2 is now the column 2. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is to avoid certain things. Because what we have here is the file name. Okay, the file name, and our column, the table we're looking at, actually started from this column 1 to column 14, and the name of this file can actually change. You can delete this file, you can rename it to some other thing. So we are not going to make this the column name. Okay, so how do we restructure it? And we also want to change this very one, the null, which is the the order ID, and we also need to adjust this. Okay, so let's see how we can get all that done. Okay, first let's just add a new column. Let's just leave it at custom. So what I'm going to do here is to check if column 1 in this case and column 2, if they are null. If they are null values, then we want to just return it as just empty. Yeah, empty. And then we can just continue from there. So let's say if this is equal to null and this is equal to null, then just return empty, else just return column 1 for me. Okay, we hit enter. Okay, we hit enter. At this point, I can take out the column 1, this very one, and take it out. Next, I'm going to replace this very null value, because this null point is actually the order ID column. So we will just replace this with order ID and hit enter. So we have this column filled up, then we can just fill down this very column, or fill down. Next, we are going to merge these two columns, and I am going to separate them with column. All right, so let's call this one ADJ. That's adjusted headers. Okay, so take note. Remember, from here I selected the custom first and then the column 2 because I want this to be the first one. Remember, it was the first one before we added these custom columns. So from here, okay, before we added all these ones, okay. So, and we are good here. So we maintain the ship mode and then the segment. If we go back to our original file, it's just the ship mode and the segment. So that's just what we have done here. Next, I am going to add an index column, and I want it to start with 0 because I want to take out this very header. That is the file name, which I included in our data. I want to take it out. Okay, so it will not form part of these column names I'm adjusting. So let's take it out. Take out this error. Hit OK. So the work is done. We can just take it out. Another thing I want to do is just to rename this, to take out the column there. Okay. Next, we just need to transpose the header again. So we have column 1, order, ship mode, and all that. So here we can actually adjust this because this point is where we have the step backward. Column 2 is where we have the order date. So we can just pick this order date and we go down to this place. We can replace it here. Column 2 replace with order date. So here we can actually rename this step and call it the ADJ adjusted headers. All right. So next, I'm going to get a custom. So go back to this very point. Okay, the raw data point. Now we have our headers. I want to get the body of the data. So we have these headers. I want to get the remaining part of this data so we can make the adjusted header to the data we are going to get from here. So in order to do that, I will click on this, and instead of just the last step, I'm going to refer to raw data. With this now, I can just remove the 2 rows we used for the header and retain others. So in order to do that, I'll just come over here and say remove top 2 rows. So I'm taking those 2 rows out. Okay, so with that, I can actually rename this one and call it the kind of the main data. All right. So next, I'll need to append the main data, that's the adjusted header, and the main data. So we have the 2 of them together. So in order to do that, I'll just go to append and append queries, and I'm going to select the current table. Okay, and hit OK. So we have main data. So we're going to take the first one out and replace it with adjust header. Okay, and hit OK. So we have our adjusted header. So we can call this now our data. So let me just rename this and call it adjusted data. Okay, so for every other thing is in order. Okay, we have the adjusted column for the main data. But for if we promote this, of this, no need for that effect coding for now. If we promote this, we can see that we have the order dates, order ID, and all other information. But here we have column 15, no longer the name that it was, or something that actually we can refer to. So what am I going to do here now? In this case, I'll just take out the promote headers, and because this is the only null value in this very column, this is the only null value, we can actually replace it. Let's take a look here. Sure. We check, that's the only null value in that very column. Okay, so we can actually replace it, and since we'll be using the first row there as our header, so we're going to call it file name and hit OK. So we have it as file name. So when we promote the headers, take out this, you can see we have it as file name. So we're making progress, and the next, we're going to select this very file name, and we're going to pick the column ID, order date, and then we're going to transform this table. We're going to unpull it order columns. Great. All right, so for the value here, I'm going to turn this to amount. So we don't need to rename this anywhere else. I'll start looking for a way to rename this amount. Okay. And we're going to split this. We're going to split this. Yep. Going to split this, and for this we're going to call it, this is the shape mode, and this one is called the segment. Okay, so we have our order ID, order date, file name, ship mode, segment, and we have the amount. We're almost there. Okay, you can see it's very easy. Okay, so next, if we check these columns, we can discover that we have some null values in here. We can just take it out. Okay, we have every other thing correct, but we don't want this null value. Let's take it out. You can as well take a look at what we have in the null value. Okay, so you can see total, grand totals, and all other information that are not needed. So we can just take it out where the column ID is not equal to null. Okay, one more thing, we can just duplicate this. I assume that the CA, like here we have CA and we have US, I assume that is the name of location, maybe CA for Canada, US for the United States. Okay, so we just need to duplicate this, and I am going to call this location here, and then I will split it. First occurrence, leftmost delimiter. I don't need this second, so let's take out the change type and return up here. Take out the second location stuff, take out this, and we have this. So next thing, I'll just reorganize this. So we have the file name coming first, and then we can now change our data type. I want this to be text, and this one would be date. This is text already, this is text, and this one I want it to be in dollars, and then location. Great. So we are done with cleaning up our data, restructuring our data, making it suitable for further analysis. Okay, now we are going to create a dynamic calendar table. So how are we going to do that? So we want to extract the start date and the end date. So to get the start date, we are going to make reference to this. We're just referring to this. So we're going to call this start date. And here we are going to make reference to other dates. And we have this. So we convert it to table. And then go to transform, go to date. We want the earliest date. And that is it. We can just duplicate this. But this time around, we're going to call here and date. Okay, we can take this out. We have the date. Every other information is still the same. So convert to table. Here, instead of the earliest date, we're going to take the latest date, and we have it here. Great. So next, we are going to create a new query. New query, and this will be equal to list the dates. Hit enter. Oh, double. List the date. Enter. So we have to enter parameters. Let's just enter, say, first 2024, and we want 365 days, and we just take one step and we click invoke, and we have this list. It's going to list. What this is doing is to take the start date and create a list from the start date depending on the number of days we have provided. In order to connect this to our start date and end date, so here we are going to take out all this, and we are going to replace this with our start date. Okay, instead of having the static number of days from the start date that would be added, we need to remove that and make it dynamic by using number dot from. Okay, so what we're going to do here is to extract the start date from the end date to get the number of days. End date minus start date. Okay, and we hit OK. We can actually convert this to a table. So let's convert this so we can just easily check the start date and the end date. So we can just filter from here. So the last date will be 12/29/2023. Okay, while the the start date, that's the end date, 2023. Can we confirm that? That is 39, and we have in here 29, and the end date here is 30. Okay, in order to get that adjusted, we need to go back to our source, to this very point, and we are going to add 1 to it, and we are good. So here we have our end date 12/30/2023, and the end date here is 12/30/2023. Okay, I'm gonna call this calendar. Okay, so one more thing, this, we can't delete this query at the moment because this calendar query is still linked to it. Check here. Okay, still linked to query 1, and I wouldn't like to retain this. Okay, let's see the end part of this. If we try to delete this, we can't delete it because the calendar query is still connected to it. So we take that out, and we pick this list.date, move to calendar, to source, and replace the query 1 with the list.date. And with this, we can actually delete the query 1, and we are good to go. We have a calendar, and we can rename this, call it date, change the data type to date. Here we have created our query, we have our start date, we have our end date, we have our calendar. Okay, and we are good with all our queries as far as this dashboard is concerned. The query aspect of it is done and dusted. I believe it is an easy walk. All right, so let me know. All right, so we're going to load our data, and I'm going to just first have it as connection.